What happens when a billionaire businessman who defies all political norms goes head-to-head with a historic trailblazer who's rewriting the rules of leadership? What do you get when two ideologies, one rooted in populist nationalism and the other in progressive reform, collide on the national stage? This isn't just another political comparison. It's a reflection of America's internal tug-of-war between tradition and transformation, between America first and justice for all. In one corner stands Donald J. Trump, the polarizing former president who shook the political establishment to its core. In the other, Kamala D. Harris, the first woman vice president, a symbol of diversity, justice, and progressive change. Their policies aren't just different. They are diametrically opposed. Their visions for America's future could not be further apart. And yet, they both claim to fight for the soul of the nation. In this article, we peel back the layers, dissect their ideologies, and expose the stark contrasts that define one of the most consequential political face-offs in modern U.S. history. Political background and identity: Donald Trump is a businessman turned politician who served as the 45th President of the United States, 2017-2021. His entrance into politics marked a seismic shift in Republican ideology, with a strong focus on populism, nationalism, and deregulation. Trump often positioned himself as an outsider, challenging the establishment, advocating for America first policies and promoting conservative social values. Kamala Harris, a former California Attorney General and U.S. Senator, became the Vice President of the United States in 2021. She is the first female, first Black, and first South Asian Vice President, symbolizing diversity and inclusion. Her policies lean progressive, supporting civil rights, social justice, environmental sustainability, and stronger government intervention in key sectors such as healthcare and education. Economic philosophy: Donald Trump believes in supply-side economics, the theory that cutting taxes and reducing regulation stimulates investment and job creation. As president, he passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, slashing corporate tax rates from 35% to 21%. He also rolled back numerous financial and environmental regulations, arguing that such measures free businesses from bureaucratic constraints. Trump's economic policies are grounded in economic nationalism, focusing on protecting American industries through tariffs, particularly on China, and promoting domestic manufacturing. His administration touted job growth and stock market gains as key achievements, though critics argue these benefits were unevenly distributed. Kamala Harris supports a more progressive economic agenda, emphasizing income equality, affordable housing, and support for labor unions. She has proposed raising the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour, increasing taxes on the wealthy, and expanding social safety nets. Unlike Trump, Harris favors regulation to protect consumers and workers, particularly in industries like finance, tech, and healthcare. She believes economic growth should be inclusive and driven by investments in infrastructure, education, and green energy. Healthcare: Trump made repealing the Affordable Care Act, ACA, a central goal of his presidency. While a full repeal did not materialize, his administration eliminated the individual mandate, a key component of Obamacare. He supports market-based healthcare solutions, increased competition among insurers, and the expansion of health savings accounts, HSAs. Critics argue that Trump's healthcare proposals lacked clarity and would have left millions uninsured. Supporters say his approach could lead to lower costs and more freedom of choice. Kamala Harris initially supported Medicare for all during her presidential campaign, but later pivoted to a hybrid model involving both public and private insurance. She supports expanding the ACA and creating a government-run public option, ensuring coverage for all Americans while retaining private insurance for those who prefer it. Harris views healthcare as a human right, not a privilege, and advocates for reducing prescription drug costs and increasing federal oversight of healthcare providers and insurers. Immigration policy. Immigration was a cornerstone of Trump's agenda. He advocated for strict border control, construction of a border wall with Mexico, and limiting legal immigration. His administration implemented the zero-tolerance policy, which led to family separations at the border and issued travel bans targeting several Muslim-majority countries. Trump's supporters argue that these policies improved national security and reduced illegal immigration. Critics see them as xenophobic and inhumane, damaging America's global image. Kamala Harris supports comprehensive immigration reform, including a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants, especially DACA recipients and essential workers. She opposes family separation and supports reversing Trump-era policies that restricted asylum and refugee admissions. Harris emphasizes America's identity as a nation of immigrants and argues for humane and just immigration policies that balance border security with compassion and opportunity. Climate change and environmental policy. Trump famously withdrew the U.S. from the Paris Climate Agreement, rolled back environmental regulations, and supported fossil fuel development under the Ideologies banner of American energy dominance. He downplayed the urgency of climate change and prioritized job creation in coal, oil, and natural gas sectors. Critics argue that his environmental policies ignored scientific consensus and endangered the planet. His supporters counter that they preserved jobs and American energy independence. Kamala Harris views climate change as an existential threat. She has co-sponsored the Green New Deal and supports rejoining the Paris Agreement, investing in renewable energy, and achieving net zero emissions by 2050. Her environmental policy intertwines with social justice, recognizing that climate impacts disproportionately affect marginalized communities. Harris supports green jobs programs to transition fossil fuel workers into sustainable industries. Criminal justice and policing. Trump often used law and order rhetoric, supporting police and opposing calls to defund or reform law enforcement. He signed the First Step Act, a bipartisan bill aimed at reducing mandatory minimums and promoting rehabilitation, but his administration also cracked down on protests and emphasized harsh penalties for crimes. He strongly opposes progressive reforms like eliminating cash bail or reducing prison sentences for nonviolent offenses. As a former prosecutor, Kamala Harris has faced scrutiny for her past as California Attorney General, with critics accusing her of being too tough on crime. However, in recent years, she has pivoted toward reform, supporting the end of mass incarceration, private prisons, and cash bail. Harris advocates for police accountability, community-based policing, and investments in mental health and education, rather than punitive measures. Foreign policy and global leadership. Trump's America First doctrine rejected multilateralism, favoring bilateral agreements and withdrawal from international organizations and treaties, such as the World Health Organization, WHO, and Iran nuclear deal. He prioritized military strength, negotiated directly with adversaries like North Korea, and pressured NATO allies to increase defense spending. Critics argue this approach isolated the U.S. and weakened alliances. Supporters claim it reasserted American sovereignty and strength. Kamala Harris supports restoring traditional alliances, rejoining international agreements, and promoting democracy and human rights abroad. She emphasizes diplomacy, coalition building, and foreign aid as essential tools of foreign policy. As vice president, she has focused on addressing root causes of migration in Central America and countering global authoritarianism through coordinated diplomatic efforts. Social issues and civil rights. Trump appealed to a conservative base with strong stances against abortion, support for religious freedom, often interpreted as anti-LGBTQ+ by critics, and opposition to progressive social movements. He appointed 3 Supreme Court justices, tilting the court to the right and enabling the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Trump's administration also attempted to ban transgender individuals from military service and reversed protections for LGBTQ+ individuals in healthcare and education. Kamala Harris supports reproductive rights, LGBTQ+ rights, racial justice, and gender equality. She backs the Equality Act, which would provide federal protections against discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Her policies aim to combat systemic racism, close racial wealth gaps, and ensure equal rights and opportunities for all marginalized communities. Education. Trump promoted school choice, including charter schools and vouchers, arguing that parents should have the freedom to choose where their children are educated. His education secretary, Betsy DeVos, worked to reduce federal oversight and increase privatization. Critics claim this undermined public education and disadvantaged low-income students. Supporters say it encouraged innovation and parental empowerment. Harris supports universal pre-K, tuition-free community college, and significant federal investments in public education. She advocates for teacher pay increases, reduced classroom sizes, and tackling racial disparities in school funding and discipline. Her educational philosophy emphasizes equity, accessibility, and government responsibility in creating opportunity. Governance style and political strategy. Trump's governance style is unorthodox, confrontational, and media-driven. He often bypassed traditional channels by using social media, particularly Twitter, to communicate directly with supporters. He portrayed himself as a political outsider, battling the deep state, the media, and global elites. This combative style energized his base, but often deepened political polarization and undermined institutional norms. Kamala Harris, trained in law and shaped by years in the Senate, embraces a more traditional and consensus-building approach. While she holds progressive views, she often works within established institutions and with bipartisan partners to pass legislation. Her style is measured and inclusive, focusing on coalition building rather than confrontation. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris represent two dramatically different visions for America. Trump's ideology revolves around conservatism, nationalism, deregulation, and strong borders, appealing to voters who feel left behind by globalization and cultural change. In contrast, Harris champions progressive reform, inclusion, government, activism, and multilateral engagement. Their ideological clash embodies the current American political divide between a past-focused populism and a future-oriented progressivism. The policies they promote not only influence elections but shape the identity and direction of the nation for years to come. Whether America chooses the path of America First, conservatism, or progressive liberalism will continue to be a central debate in the country's political narrative, reflecting the hopes, fears, and values of a complex and evolving electorate.